You see this, right? You see this delta that you created. You're like, look, you went from $1 sign to $2 signs. All of this extra money was because of me, right? But the thing is that if you make someone $10,000, right, in the first month you work with them, and let's say you charge them $1,000, in your mind you say, oh, well, this 9K is because of me, which means I just bought another 9 months of service with you, right? Because I made you $9,000, I charge $1,000 a month, so I could basically just break even for the next 9 months. But try actually having that conversation in reality. It doesn't work that way. What happens in reality is this: they pay $1,000, they make 10, they make the extra 9, and they say, oh, that $1,000 was worth it this month. And guess what happens next month? You start at zero. Actually, you start at negative 1,000 because they've already paid you 1,000 and they haven't made any money yet. And so again, it's always going to be relative to when they pay and what they get relative to that. And so this is where this volatility ends up becoming a trap for most business owners. And when you're starting a business, or even when you're a few years into the business, you'll often sell to people that you relate to. And so you'll sell out of your own wallet to solve your own problems. But the problem there is that those people will never become reliable. It's like building your business on a foundation of sand. It doesn't matter how beautiful of a castle you can imagine in your mind. One bad storm on a foundation of sand and it's going to topple over. And so you end up just getting in this endless cycle of trying to iterate your products, create different offers and all this stuff, but the fundamental issue is you're serving somebody who's never going to stay and pay because of them, not you. So for example, if you have a supplement business, it's unlikely that you're going to get very high stick if you're super expensive and your product suite is only geared towards beginners, and beginners churn out. As in, they go to the gym, they stop going to the gym. They go to the gym, they stop going to the gym. Now, if you had a business that was geared around the regular user or somebody who already, let's say, takes protein every day, and you truly have a superior product, and then that entire base of people who takes protein shakes every day is willing to take yours instead of someone else's, then you have a customer that is already a qualified customer who's going to continue to take the product over and over again. But when you target beginners, whether it's B2C or B2B, obviously the price differences are significant between businesses and consumers, but they are still beginners within that continuum. And so you will have the churn in relation to how much of a beginner they are. And so my preferred way to think about this is if you think about this pyramid as a representation of the marketplace based on their spending power, right? If, at the base, you're always going to have the most people that have the least amount of money to spend. And so whether it's B2B or B2C, like B2C, it's going to be base beginners for whatever it is that you sell. If it's B2B, it's going to be the smallest business owners. So it could be, consumers becoming prosumers or prosumers becoming VSMBs, which is a very small business, and then VSMBs becoming SMBs, which is small business owners. And then you have low mid-market, and then you go all the way up to, Fortune 100 companies, right? My preferred way to structure a business model is to actually start at the top. And the reason for this is that because there's little operational drag, because you have fewer customers you need to take care of, they're able to spend significantly more, they are going to be around a while, and they know their numbers, and they can stick with their commitment. So if you have a contract, for example, and they say they'll pay you $1 million a year, the likelihood they pay you is significantly higher than a beginner saying he's going to pay you $10,000 over 10 months. Very unlikely. I would make that bet. So much so that corporate debt is an entire investable asset class based on the promises that businesses make to repay things. The cool part about this from a branding perspective is that you learn how to service these much higher end customers. And with that reputation, then there are customers who are going to be underneath who are then going to say, you know what, I would love to be able to work with somebody who works with the Fortune 100. I can't afford that. And you say, you know what, I can make it a little bit more affordable for you, but you're going to get a little bit less service for that. And you can work your way down. Now, here's where it gets really clever. Is that as you work your way down, you're consistently making more money. And at this point, when you go further and further down this rabbit hole, you're going to be able to spend the money it takes to create the automated solution or the software-based or technological-based solution that's going to have a near zero cost basis for you as a business owner so that you can profitably serve these itty bitty dollar signs here without the headache associated with beginners. Fundamentally, if you sell to beginners, you're going to have to either sell a really big ticket one time that's based on an emotional purchase, and you're doing what I would consider a smash and grab business. Solar, for example, is kind of what I would consider a smash and grab business. People go in, they sell solar, and then it's on the roof, and then that's kind of it. And so it's really just massively just trying to sell every single person that exists, and that's all there is to it. Or you have to create something that's the price to value discrepancy is so absurd because what's crazy